Hey there, fellow listeners. Welcome to Red Hunt, where my name is Red and I'll be diving into the captivating world of relationship stories shared on Reddit. So grab your favorite beverage and let's delve into these tales of love, heartbreak, and everything in between. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the hunt with me. Am I the antagonist for confronting my stepdaughter and she left the house? I'm a 38-year-old woman married to my 42-year-old husband, who has a 17-year-old daughter named Jane. We've been married for 3 years, and although my relationship with Jane has never been the typical mother-daughter dynamic, especially since her mother is still alive, it hasn't been bad. Typically, when anything negative happens, my husband deals with Jane, and I like to give them their personal and private time. Sometimes, I do get involved and take the lead in conversations with her father. Recently, my husband has been traveling, so it has just been Jane and me at home. Nothing out of the ordinary happened until 4 days ago when Jane's school called our house phone because neither of Jane's parents was answering their calls. They informed me that Jane had been suspended for the rest of the semester due to bullying a classmate who happens to be autistic, according to what I've gathered. Jane took it to the extreme by persuading him to retrieve her pen from a fountain at school. Then, along with her friends, she opened the water, causing him to be startled. I tried reaching out to her mother, but she didn't answer, so I went to the school myself. Jane denied all accusations of bullying, claiming it was a lie. However, there were several witnesses from different grades who confirmed that Jane was indeed guilty of what she was being accused of. Additionally, the principal showed me a video of the incident at the fountain, clearly indicating that Jane had instructed the boy to retrieve her pen and then opened the water, causing him to fall. Jane and her friends even recorded the incident and shared it through WhatsApp chats. I was shocked by Jane's behavior and the extent to which she and her friends went to embarrass this poor boy. They even broke into the staff's office to open the water, solely to humiliate him. The car ride back home with Jane was unbearable, as she continued to lie despite all the evidence against her. Frustrated, I yelled at her, expressing my disbelief that she thought bullying and humiliating someone was cool or fun. I called it sick behavior, and she still had the audacity to defend herself. She stormed off, claiming that it was none of my business and that I had no right to care about someone she deemed as an insulting term for a person with disabilities. She then called her mother, who suddenly answered the phone and complained about me. Later, Jane packed her things and left. Shortly after, I received a text from her mother stating that I don't deserve to be around Jane and that I should mind my own business and not interfere with children who aren't mine. My husband will be returning tomorrow to meet with the principal officially. He did call Jane, but I'm unsure of what happened. Am I the asshole for yelling at her? Should I have just stayed quiet? You were put in a difficult situation and did your best to handle it. Jane's behavior was completely unacceptable, and you were right to confront her about it. It's important for her to understand the severity of her actions and the consequences they can have. Am I the antagonist for using my adoptive brother's share of the inheritance as a deposit on a house? In this post, I will refer to my brother as Tim.G. I am nearly 26 years old, and for most of my childhood, I was moved from one house to another without ever feeling like I truly belonged. By the age of 9, I had already lived with 17 different foster families. No one wanted me because I had behavioral issues due to the mistreatment I had experienced. Consequently, I acted out towards every set of foster parents I was placed with. However, everything changed when I was finally moved in with an exceptional couple named P&S. I was almost 10 at the time, and though everyone referred to them as my new family, their words held no weight because I had heard it all before and no longer believed in this concept. P&S already had a child named Tim, who was 17 years old and an incredible person I grew to love dearly. My new parents were exactly what I needed at that point in my life: caring, understanding, and they gave me the space I needed while accepting my affection without any pressure. After a year, I began to believe what everyone had been telling me: P&S were my new family. However, due to the character limit, I cannot provide all the details. The main point is that they became my true parents, and I became their beloved son. Sadly, Tim developed a drug addiction in his early 20s, leading to multiple hospitalizations and stints in rehab. Tragically, P passed away in a fatal accident. Reflecting back, my biggest regret is never having called P Dad to his face. The fear of rejection prevented me from uttering those words whenever I attempted to. I wish I had the opportunity to go back and express it to him. After P's death, I mustered up the courage to call S Mom a few times, and on my first attempt, she cried. She revealed that they had been waiting for years and that Dad was incredibly proud of me. It still hurts so much even now. Unfortunately, less than 6 months later, S was diagnosed with lung cancer and passed away within a year. Tim transformed into a mere shadow of the person I had met when I was 9. Witnessing him in that state was heartbreaking. Our parents had saved a significant sum of money, and before she died, Mom made me promise to give Tim the time he needed to become sober. She instructed me to deny him access to any money, no matter how difficult it became. I kept my promise, even when he begged, bullied, and guilt-tripped me, never giving him a single penny. Mom wanted me to preserve the funds for 5 years after her passing, and if Tim had not achieved complete sobriety by then, I was to use it to purchase a house and establish myself. 5 years elapsed. Tim showed no progress in his journey to sobriety, so I followed my mother's instructions and used his portion to establish my life. It has been 3 years since then, and Tim has finally achieved sobriety. He has now demanded his share of the inheritance, to which I informed him it was no longer available. This revelation sent him into a fit of rage, accusing me of unjustly taking his parents' money. Now, I cannot help but experience overwhelming guilt. I believe I should have waited at least 10 years, and am even contemplating selling my house to provide him with his rightful share. However, my wife advises against it, and I am torn about what to do next. Wow, that's an incredibly tough situation to be in. It's understandable that you feel guilty, especially considering everything you and Tim went through together. However, you did exactly what your mom asked of you and used the money to set yourself up, just as she wanted. Selling your house to give him his share is a big decision, and ultimately, it depends on what you feel is the right thing to do. It might be worth talking to a professional or someone you trust for advice on how to handle this complex situation. Am I the antagonist for forcing the seller of our house out before her new place was ready? I am a 25-year-old woman and my husband is also 25 years old. We moved into an apartment in October of 2022 while actively searching for a house. In January of 2023, one of my mother's friends, who we'll refer to as Mary, a 60-year-old woman, informed my mom that she planned to move into a condo about an hour away to be closer to her mother. It's worth noting that Mary has a mental disability resulting from a work accident, but is capable of living independently and taking care of herself. Mary asked if we were interested in checking out her house, and we loved it, expressing our interest in moving forward. We agreed to proceed without involving realtors and decided to engage real estate lawyers instead. Additionally, we were offered a discounted price. At that point, Mary mentioned that her condo was still under construction and scheduled to be completed in June. This was not an issue for us, so we initiated the process in April. Unsurprisingly, there were delays in the construction, and we remained patient as the original settlement and move-in time frame of June-July passed. In August, I contacted Mary to inquire if moving in by October 1st would align with the completion of her condo. She confirmed that it would, and I informed her that I would notify my landlord about breaking our lease. I also updated our real estate lawyer and requested that he adjust the settlement date accordingly. However, shortly after, I received an angry email from the lawyer stating that he was resigning because Mary and I had been making undisclosed plans. It turned out Mary had informed her lawyer that we had agreed on a settlement date of October 25th, which contradicted our actual discussions. I promptly resolved the issue through email, but we were advised not to contact Mary directly without our lawyer. Here's where I am uncertain whether I acted appropriately. My husband, our lawyer, and I had an uncomfortable conversation with Mary, explicitly stating that she needed to vacate the premises no later than October 13th, since our lease ended on the 15th. She became distressed, crying and expressing that she had no one to assist her with the move, and that her condo wasn't finished due to the absence of safety bars in the shower. I explained that if she didn't leave, we would have nowhere to live, emphasizing that settlement would take place 2 weeks prior to our requested move-out date, rendering the house no longer hers. I also suggested that she could temporarily live with her mother while waiting for the safety bars to be installed. Furthermore, I mentioned various packing and moving services available to help her with the process. However, she ignored my suggestions, continuing to cry and even calling out for her mother. The discomfort grew to a point where I decided to end the call. Later on, Mary confided in my mother, elaborating on her distress regarding the situation. I shared my side of the story with my mom, but she continues to assert that I should have been more lenient and allowed Mary to stay longer. Personally, I believe I was sufficiently patient and accommodating throughout the process. Although we have been residing in the house for several months now, my parents still disapprove of how I handled the situation. I am questioning whether I was in the wrong here. You clearly communicated the timeline and expectations with Mary and were patient with the construction delays. It was reasonable for you to ask her to move out before your lease ended, especially since settlement was scheduled 2 weeks earlier. You even suggested alternatives for her and offered solutions, but she chose not to consider them. Your parents may not agree, but you handled the situation fairly and were not in the wrong. Am I the antagonist for not drinking the coffee that my boyfriend has made for me? I have been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 3.5 years. He knows I have certain preferences when it comes to tidying up in certain dishes, so I always take care of them myself to avoid annoying him. One thing I am very specific about is my morning coffee. I like 2 teaspoons of instant coffee, 2 teaspoons of hazelnut syrup, half a cup of boiling water, and the rest filled with oat milk. I also have a specific coffee mug I prefer to use. I understand I may come across as annoying, but I am aware of it and always make my own coffee. I never ask anyone else to make it for me. When my colleagues make coffee for me, I appreciate whatever they make and thank them. Despite being together for 3.5 years, my boyfriend continues to struggle with making my coffee exactly as I like it. I have shown him multiple times, but he still gets the dose of coffee or hazelnut syrup wrong, and sometimes uses the wrong cup, which I can overlook. I don't want to be difficult, but the taste of the coffee just doesn't satisfy me. I have explained this to my boyfriend and asked him to let me make my own coffee in the morning. This morning, he got annoyed when I declined his offer to make me coffee in bed. He insisted I trust him and that he knows I'll end up making it myself. So I trusted him, and he made a machine espresso coffee with a little syrup and milk. I thanked him, but I don't enjoy machine espresso in the morning. I have never had machine coffee in front of him because I don't like it. I only buy capsules for him because I remember his preferences. He became angry with me and called me an asshole for not appreciating his gesture. I strongly disagree with his reaction. It has been 3.5 years, and I have shown him at least 10 times how I like my coffee. I feel like he is deliberately disregarding my preferences to prove a point. I can taste the difference in the coffee, and I don't understand why he won't simply make it the way I like it, especially if he's so desperate to make it for me. Once again, I have never asked him to do this for me. I don't feel grateful for the gesture at all. Am I being spoiled or unreasonable in this situation? No antagonist here, you're not being a spoiled asshole. If you've clearly shown and explained how you like your coffee multiple times over the course of 3.5 years, it's not unreasonable for you to expect your boyfriend to remember, or at least make an effort to make it the way you like it. It's kind of frustrating that he keeps getting it wrong when you've made it clear what you prefer. Plus, you're not even asking him to make it for you in the first place, so he could just let you handle it. Am I the antagonist for refusing to allow my brother to live with or rent from me in a housing crisis? I, a 28-year-old female, have managed to enter the housing market in a desirable area by acquiring a spacious apartment. On the other hand, my brother, a 36-year-old male, is currently residing with our parents but is facing eviction in 3 months. The rent in our city is at least $400 per week. I sympathize with my brother, who has experienced intermittent employment over the past 8 months. Prior to that, he was jobless for 2 years due to burnout from his previous job. However, shortly after starting a new job, he left within 2 weeks due to bullying and a toxic environment. Finding employment during those 2 years was challenging for him. Furthermore, he had his car repossessed because he was in significant debt. Nonetheless, I do not wish to live with him any longer, and I cannot trust him as a tenant for the following reasons. During those 2 years, he was receiving government assistance. But my mother was shocked, heartbroken, and infuriated when she discovered that he had stolen $37,000 from her. He spent the money on drugs, expensive shoes, and electronics, failing to use it to pay off his debt. Although it took some time for us to regain trust in him, I still offered him assistance. I purchased a new phone for him when his broke, paid for his gym sessions weekly, bought him food, and helped with some bills. Although he now has a well-paying job, he fails to prioritize payments for his bills and debt. Instead, he spends his money on takeout meals, expensive shoes, and miscellaneous items he wants. Additionally, he has a terrible sense of financial responsibility. He has stolen from me and my mother, even when he was earning $900 per week. Moreover, he lacks respect for other people's possessions. He has broken the bathroom light, the built-in sink plug, the bathroom drain cover, and even my car's dash cam. He has also used my hair and face products without permission, despite me explaining that they are expensive and difficult to replace. Furthermore, he has rifled through my work bag in my room to steal from me. We both have ADHD and take dexamphetamine, but he takes a higher dose. During one instance, he attempted to steal my medication, and even though I confronted him about it, he lied. At that time, our parents were on vacation, so he was the only possible culprit. Luckily, I store my medication in a secure location. I have made multiple efforts to communicate with him, as recommended by my therapist. However, it is evident that he simply does not care. He even responded with "I don't care" when I asked him not to use my mother's face products while they were away. Additionally, he refuses to see a therapist because he believes they are unhelpful. Due to my concerns about my belongings being stolen and my house being damaged, I cannot continue living with him. He has not made any effort to search for a rental property, so I am unsure if he anticipates that our parents will allow him to stay, or if he expects me to support him. It is possible that he may find himself without a place to live in 3 months' time. It's understandable that you don't want to live with your brother, especially with his history of stealing and disrespecting your belongings. It sounds like you've already tried to talk to him and help him out, but he just doesn't seem to care. Hopefully, he realizes the consequences of his actions and starts taking responsibility for himself. Am I the antagonist for not allowing friends to drink alcohol in my house? I, a 37-year-old female, have a strict no alcohol policy in my house, which I've upheld for 15 years. Due to a history of alcoholism in my family and my own struggles with problem drinking in my late teens and early 20s, I made the decision to completely abstain from alcoholic beverages. I have not consumed a single drop of alcohol since then. While I don't have an issue with others drinking around me, I personally choose not to drink and do not want alcohol in my house. My family and friends are aware of my reasons for this. A group of friends and I have been enjoying regular game nights, taking turns hosting at our respective homes. The first 2 game nights were great and we had a lot of fun. Some people chose to drink alcohol during these gatherings, while others did not. Now it's my turn to host, and while making preparations, I reminded everyone about my policy on alcohol in my house. However, I did mention that non-alcoholic beer or wine would be acceptable, and I could also prepare mocktails as an alternative. I thought this was a fair compromise, and that people would be fine abstaining from drinking for the duration of a 3-hour event. Unfortunately, 2 members of the group expressed extreme dissatisfaction with my rule. They claimed that they interpreted my house rule differently, believing that I simply didn't keep alcohol stocked but had no objections to others bringing their own. I'm not sure where they got this idea, as all previous events they attended at my house were alcohol-free, mostly brunches and lunches, where drinking is less common. They also argued that it was inappropriate for me to prohibit them from bringing alcohol, suggesting that it made me a bad host and friend. This led to an unnecessary argument, where they accused me of being a hypocrite due to my past struggles with alcohol, and claimed that I needed help if I still couldn't be around alcohol after all these years. I responded by stating that if they couldn't go 3 hours without drinking, then they were the ones who needed help. We tried to prevent the argument from involving the rest of the group, as we didn't want them to feel pressured to take sides. However, it escalated from an in-person disagreement to a heated exchange in our group chat. This unfortunately caused division among our friends, including those who don't attend the game nights but are part of the chat. Considering all the conflict, I am contemplating withdrawing from the game nights. While I maintain my stance on not allowing alcohol in my house, some people have accused me of being in the wrong for not adhering to our country's drinking norms at social events and parties. Others argue that having personal boundaries is valid, and people shouldn't assume they can drink alcohol at every gathering. I'm feeling conflicted, as I recognize that our location has a significant drinking culture where alcohol consumption is more the norm than the exception at evening events. So, am I the one at fault for not permitting alcohol in my house? It's your house, your rules. Your friends should respect your boundaries and understand that your past experiences with alcohol have shaped your decision. If they can't go a few hours without drinking, then that's their problem, not yours. You shouldn't have to compromise your sobriety for the sake of others. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.